Hey y'all, I'm Heather and welcome back to my channel, The Debt-Free Quilter. And today we're going to be talking about a very versatile block and how to make it. The half square triangle. These blocks are very versatile. There's a million ways to make them. You can even make up to 8 at a time. If you figure out a way to make more than 8 at a time, let me know. I want to try it. We can paper piece them. We can traditionally piece them. We can miniaturize them. And we can wonkyfy them. Believe me, I got some wonky half square triangles around here. Let me tell you. But we can't forget the paper piecing. So, what we're going to do today is learn how to make half square triangles in a multitude of different ways, up to 4 at a time, because I'm only using 5-inch squares. So, let's get started. Okay, first of all, let's look at some of the things we're going to need. These are literally a bunch of random half square triangles that I made with, nothing better to do. Some of these are from leftover project pieces. Some of these are from forever ago. Now, let's look at some of the tools we're going to need. I will be showing you all some paper piecing. These are from the triangles on a roll. I just cut them up. I've used them in a previous project and had some left over. So we're going to see how we paper piece the triangles 2 at a time. Like I said, I've already cut these off the roll. I'm not trying to get that back out. We'll need a marking utensil. This is a friction pin. It's a very bright blue. That should stand out on our fabrics. We have one of these nifty little rulers. This is another specialty ruler. It's meant for marking. It's a 1/2 inch wide. This center here is a 1/4 inch and it's 12 inches long. This particular one comes in a set of 3, a 12 inch, a 3 inch, and I think a 6 inch if I recall correctly. But even the medium-sized one is not long enough to fit across a 5-inch square. Not quite. It might be a 4-inch that it comes. I don't recall. I grabbed out this little 2.5-inch square ruler, so I can use it to trim up these little bitty ones that need all the dog ears cut off. I grabbed out my 6-inch or 6.5-inch square ruler from Creative Grids. And I grabbed out my block lock. So we'll give this a go and see how it turns out. Alright, now the first thing we're going to do, and of course we need our fabric, our rotary cutter, a self-healing cutting mat, and fabric. Gotta have the fabric. I decided to just grab some monochrome fabric that I have laying around in my stash, and we will just make some half square triangles in various sizes and just play with them for a little while and see what comes of that. And I also grabbed out one of these. This is a way to create a half square triangle. Just flip it right sides together and sew a 1/4 inch along this seam. Not this seam, this seam. Because if you sew it on that seam, you get 1/4 square triangles. We don't want that. Not today anyway. No. We want a half square triangle. So we'll sew along here. And then we're going to work on all this too. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a light I'm going to grab this ruler and I'm going to make sure my yellow line here in the center is lined up directly on the corners. Then I'm going to take my friction pin, as long as it's not dead, and draw a line on both sides. Yes, I made that rather dark. I want to make sure y'all can see it. Line up my ruler again. Okay. Then I'm going to choose a dark square to pair it with. And then we'll sew down both of these lines right here. Now there is a technique where you draw your line directly down the center and sew a 1/4 inch on each side of said line, but I am not very good at that. I cannot for some reason keep it straight, just even with seam tape, because there is seam guide tape that you can put on the bed of your sewing machine. Even with that, I'm not very good at it, so I tend to just go ahead and draw my lines and not even worry about it. Now when we get to this, we are going to cut our squares down a little bit so that they will be just bigger than this piece of paper. So, but for right this minute, we're going to learn these two techniques. And here, let's do one more. Let's see, we'll grab a B to learn the 4 at a time technique as well. So we'll do all our sewing for this beginning point all at once, and then I will come back and show you the paper piecing. So let's move to the sewing machine and get these sewn up, and I'll show you what we're doing. Now you may notice that something is absent over here. That's right, my seam guide isn't there because we're going to start with this one, so it will just be in the way, so I went ahead and moved it. Okay. And all we're going to do now is just sew straight down these lines, as straight as you can. There's one. Go a little bit further, and I'm going to lift the presser foot up and swing it around. Line that line up with the needle. Move that off. And sew straight down this line once again. Take that, snip this off, and now we're going to have 2 half square triangles. We'll just cut down the center here in just a minute. Now I'm going to put my seam guide on. Get it lined up right there. And we're going to take these 2 triangles, put them right sides together. Line them up against my seam guide here. And we'll go ahead and sew that on through. I'm going to make sure this corner over here does what it's supposed to do. All right. Now, 4 at a time for this one. So, I'm going to snip that off. And snip that off. That over there. turn ourselves around and look at our cutting mat here. I'm not going to worry about pressing anything right this minute. This one, we know, we open it up. Once we trim it, it will be just fine. Let me grab my press. Okay. Now, this one right here. Now my 6" is not quite long enough. But I have lined my 1/4" line up right here. Just going to slice it right on down. Okay? And now we have 2 half square triangles. Now before I move too far, these are going to be roughly, where are we at? We're going to call it about 4.5. I'm going to show you 2 ways to trim these up. First of all, let's see. I have to remember, you guys, it's been a minute since I've done this. Okay. What I want to do is on each side, I have a 4.5" mark over here. Okay. I want the 4.5" mark on the outside to be touching my sew line. And then I'm just going to square it up. This is one of my favorite ways to trim up half square triangles. So there's that side. And now we're going to take this 4.5" over here and line those up. And trim our dog ears off. I learned this trick over at Treasure Heart Creations from Eric Oda. He has a really fun channel. You should definitely go check it out if you are so inclined. And then I'm going to press that over. And we have a well, apparently it's still a little wonky, but roughly a 4.5" half square triangle. Now, let's try this block lock. Because block lock is not my favorite. I fully admit this. See, over here, it's not even close to 4.5. And honestly, we could have gone down some more with that. So I think we're just going to trim this down to 4 inches. So that means I'm going to cut off a lot. And I'm actually going to slide this over the other way. As now I want my 4" line to line up. I'm just going to take this whole thing and turn it. I just want my 4-inch lines to line up. And it's not even going to be square. It's not even going to come out square. So this one has squared up to 3 7/8. I don't like this. I may give that away. All right. Let's move on to our next victim, shall we say. Now, once again, my 6-inch is not quite long enough to reach, but I have this lovely X here that I can point it at. I've cut it once. Let's turn and cut it the other way. Now, we have 4 half square triangles. Now we do need to be careful since we're not over at the ironing board yet, because these have a bit of bias. It just means they're stretchy. Run away. Okay. Now these we can square to 8 inches, or not 8 inches, 3 inches. So what I will do is take, and I'm going to use this center line to line up on this 45-degree angle over here. And I want to have just a little bit showing outside that 3-inch mark, and a little bit showing over on the other side. And just trim that little tiny bit off. Just a little bit. Flip it around, line up that 45-degree line again, but this time we want our 3-inch line on both sides over here. We're going to trim both sides over here again. And that is how we square up a half square triangle. I'll show you a couple more times just to make sure that we're on the same page about it. Now remember, we're squaring these to 3 inches. We line it up with a little bit hanging off on all sides. We flip it. We line it up. Nice on our lines this time. And there we go. one more. And then we will move on to learning how to paper piece the half square triangles. Okay. All right, let's pick. Come here. I'll grab one of these, and we'll grab that one. All right. I honestly forget which size this was supposed to make. Oh, 2.5 inch. This was meant to make 2.5 inch. And that's what it looks like on a 5-inch square. So what I'm going to do is cut off this over here. And this over here. Come on, that's right. Cut it just a little bit bigger than my paper. And now we're going to go over to the sewing machine and sew these. And we won't need that again. Now, this tells you to sew on these dotted lines. The solid lines are cut lines. The dotted lines are sew lines. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to drop my needle and I'm going to sew down the dotted line. So right off the end. I'll lift that presser foot up, line up my needle again, and sew down the other side. Okay, now we're going to flip around one more time and trim these up. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is just cut down this center line and get it over with. Okay. I'm going to remove my paper and just tear it right on off. One thing I will suggest for paper piecing, any sort of paper piecing, lower your stitch length. If you're stitching at a 2.5, turn it down to a 2 or a 1.8. You don't want to go too small. It'll be impossible if you need to pick it out for a mistake or whatnot. But yeah, just reduce your stitch length a little so that it perforates the paper and makes the paper easier to tear off. Okay, so we have these. And these can actually also square to 3 inches. Because right now unsquared, they measure about 3 1/4. So we can square them down to 3 inches, but they are meant to go to 2.5. But I'm going to go with 3. I like 3. Today 3 sounds like a good number. Trim off both sides. We have a lovely squared up 3-inch half square triangle. Like I said, these were meant to go to 2.5 inches, That one we could square to 3. This one looks like it's actually a little bit smaller. But I'm not going to worry about it because there's no such thing as perfection. That side's good. Just need to trim off the dog ear. A little sniblet on that side. And we still have a very nice half square triangle. Now, let's look at how versatile these blocks can be. We'll take these for example. We can put these into many a configuration. And there we have a pinwheel. We can make it go either direction. We can do flying geese. We can do square and a square. We can I don't recall the name of this block. I figure it would be similar to a birds in the air block. Half square triangles can be used for a, let's see if I have enough. For a bear's paw. I don't have, there needs to be another square right here, but you get the gist. It's, they can be used for sawtooth stars. That's too big, but once again, you get the gist. I mean, there is no end to what you can do with half square triangles. And these are just a few examples. So I'm going to encourage you to go out, make yourself some half square triangles, no matter the method, and make something pretty out of them. So I think that's where we're going to leave it for today, and I will see you next time. Bye.